Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of Future Back Drinking, a podcast series from PepsiCo in Time. I'm your host, Dr. Athina Kanioura, PepsiCo's Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer. We were just about ready to wrap up Season 1, but when the chance came to sit down with Marc Benioff, we didn't hesitate to say yes. His wisdom, vision, and perspective on the future of AI, values-driven leadership, and responsible innovation were too powerful not to share with all of you. As chair, CEO, and co-founder of Salesforce, Marc has shaped not only the modern tech landscape, but also what it means to lead with purpose. Since launching the company in 1999, he's built Salesforce into a Fortune 150 powerhouse, one that pioneered cloud computing and continues to drive innovation at scale, all while staying rooted in core values like trust, equality, and sustainability. Marc's leadership blends mindfulness with bold action. From day one, he embedded philanthropy into the company's DNA, donating 1% of equity, product, and employee time to community causes. That model has since inspired over 20,000 companies to follow suit. His commitment to social impact also led him to acquire Time magazine, recognizing the vital role independent journalism and civic dialogue play in the future of our society. In our conversation, Marc and I explore the future of AI, how innovation stays meaningful when it's anchored in values, and what it takes for leaders to stay grounded in an ever-evolving world. Here is our conversation. Hi, Marc, and thank you so much for joining us on Future Back Drinking. So cheers to a great conversation, first of all, and looking forward to discussing with you.
Cheers to you.
Oh, and a Pepsi Zero as well. Great taste.
Made in Hawaii, Pepsi Zero, the best one possible.
Made in Hawaii. We make everything possible. Trust me. It's a great facility. It's a great island, and I know very close to your heart.
Come and visit me, Athena.
I will come. I promise. Soon. So, Marc, 25 years of Salesforce. Wow. Over the course of those years, Salesforce has stayed at the forefront of every major tech wave. So tell me, how do you keep up?
Well, it's really, honestly, it's relationships with customers exactly like you, Athena. And it's what excites me is customer success. That really makes me happy. And working with you, working with all the executives that I've worked with, I love getting the customer to be successful. And it makes me very happy. And that gets me going. And I think when we talk about customer success in the era of technology, we have to be a little bit ahead of the customer to welcome them into the future. That's extremely important. And that is also something that, we're very mindful of, because we know that, we're going to be sometimes living in a world or saying things or seeing things that all of our customers are not exactly at that point, but we're going to be there when they're ready. And we want to welcome them into that future state.
Because I'm thinking of Salesforce, and you have gone through, massive transformations. I mean, obviously there was the big CRM wave, and you were a pioneer on driving that. Then you went into AI. Now, of course, Agentforce and the whole agentic space. Do you think of the structure of the organization and how they should be reflected to drive the change on behalf of your customers? So explain to me how you adopt the company's culture.
Well, I never get this right. And, in software, unfortunately, sometimes you end up shipping your org chart, which you never want to do, but it occasionally happens, and you know that. And look, we're not perfect. Nobody is. And we're doing our best. But I think, when I was at Oracle, I realized that, technology is a continuum. It's getting lower cost and easier to use. And when I started Salesforce with seed funding originally from Larry Ellison and from my other friends to start Salesforce in 1999, I just realized that, the cloud was going to become very important. But I'll tell you, the first time I ever talked to Pepsi about the cloud, it was not exactly for them. And then we moved into mobile, we moved into social, we moved into AI, and we moved into together as a partnership. And we're also moving into agents that way as well, aren't we? And so I think that's what's exciting for me is that, our job is to think about where is this industry going and how are we going to bring these customers with us. I think at one level, we've been mostly working on building all these amazing apps for 25 years. Things like our sales cloud and our service cloud and our marketing cloud, commerce, our core application development and deployment, MuleSoft, Tableau, which is incredible analytics platform, Slack, all these amazing apps. And that's where I always thought we would just stay there. And then what happened was when we invented our data cloud, we decided to connect all those apps together in one data repository and to federate that data cloud back out to all the other data clouds in the companies so that they had a real federated place to go for all the data, but value provided from our apps. And then a year ago, we had the idea, it's only been a year, Athina. A year ago, we had an idea that we would build an agentic layer on top of the data cloud that would then be able to come down and then span across all of the apps. So last week in San Diego, we had 9,000 Tableau users. And that Tableau user conference, we introduced Tableau Next. And what made it special was we not only had the Tableau that everyone loves, but it had Agentforce built in and deeply integrated in Data Cloud and was running in a fluid way across all of these applications, embedded in Salesforce, embedded in Slack. And I looked at that and I just said to myself, oh, this is a huge vision for the world, but wow, this isn't even where we were 5 years ago. And, things are just constantly kind of transforming and tactics are becoming strategy over time. That is very powerful. And linking these things together so that you're kind of creating a 1 + 1 = 3 wherever possible. And that's what's getting me excited every day. That's what's motivating me. And Athina, right now, you've known me for a long time. I've never been more excited about Salesforce.
And we are very excited for you as a partner. I mean, we have obviously worked with you in the service space with Salesforce CRM. We have CDP, we have the Salesforce Marketing Cloud. And of course now, the whole agentic space with the transformation of our customer service end-to-end from our consumers and customers across the board. And I know agentic and Agentforce is something that is a very powerful value proposition from Salesforce, but also something that you're very passionate about. So talk to us about your vision of moving from digital assistants to much more autonomous embodied agents and how that you envision changing the way Salesforce is going to help your customers.
Yeah. And, when I think about Pepsi and companies like Pepsi, the large customers are very important, just like for us. All these large customers, it's great. But then there's a long tail of all these other customers that can represent maybe half of our business, but it's this long tail. And how do we give that long tail of customers the same quality of sales and service and customer intimacy that we do our large customers? And the answer is going to be the agentic layer, Agentforce. I'm talking to you, but I can't talk to every customer like this. You know that, Athina. But, and I have 75,000 employees, but I still don't have enough for every customer. So I can use an agentic layer then, and I've already done like 500,000 conversations just in the last few months on my agentic layer, providing customer service and support to all my customers. You can only imagine over time the millions and millions and millions of conversations that I will have with customers in sales and in service and in marketing and across the board and in ideation, all the areas where I can provide value to customers. And I think that for Pepsi, for other companies, that will be true too, because there's that great retailer out there in that market that you're still not able to fully serve as well as you want, and you want to have a great relationship with them. And that opportunity is going to be through that Pepsi agent. And eventually, you're not only going to have that kind of relationship right into the store, maybe right into the refrigerator, maybe right into the robot that's in the store. Like, this is all happening, in real time with us. But some of it's still in the future because, here I am, and I'm sure it's true for you. I'm looking around here in my office. There are no robots walking around. But we have it in our mind's eye because we see them on Twitter, the videos and all these things, that at some point there could be some cool things that are going to happen with our companies and our customers. And we've seen the movies, so maybe the movies will become somewhat real. But yeah, we're going to serve our customers in exciting new ways. And we want to be at the very forefront of that and not held back by any old architectural limitation or capability and let our customers also choose the model that they want, AI model, let them choose the data repository they want. They want to use Data Cloud, but they want to federate to another data repository, a Databricks, a Snowflake, an Amazon, a Google, an IBM. Let them choose. But we'll provide the federated substrate. We'll provide the applications, we'll provide the agentic layer. And then if they also have other agents, we'll interoperate with those agents. And this is like the beginning of the future of the enterprise. And that is going to be a big moment for me and you and others who are going to have to work to kind of put all this together and make it really operate with the brand values, because this brand value, this is where trust is right now. We know that. And when that brand value shows up digitally, it has to have the same level of trust. And we know that that's going to be incredibly important in how these agents express themselves.
So, Mark, you talk about the trust, obviously, on brands like Pepsi or brands like Lay's and many other brands in the marketplace. But it all starts with the human trust as well. And, of course, the criticism on AI and to an extent about the future of agencies. Can people trust agents as much as they trust people? So if you foresee a future where we have agents and we also have physical AI, so actually we have robots with intelligence and we have humans, how do you see that kind of ecosystem operating in harmony?
Well, here's a funny story. I live in a tropical area, you know that. And I was getting ready to go to sleep, and all of a sudden, I got something is stinging me or biting me, and it happens occasionally, here. And I'm looking, and there's this little tiny blue centipede, and I'm like, oh, geez, this is terrible. And so now I have to go to my phone, and then I go to one of my favorite model. I won't tell you which one it is because it could be any of them. And I went, I just got stung by this thing, and I took a picture of it, and here it is, and what should I do right now? It's like, you need to take 2 Benadryl and you need to take a Tylenol and you put some hydrocortisone on there. And I trust it, okay? And is it probably 100% accurate? I know it's not, okay, because that's the nature of it. But I trust it enough to actually take medical information right there. And that's a big thought, that I'm willing to use the technology and trust it. In a recent study with doctors versus models, the models were more accurate than the doctors because some of these doctors have bias that the models did not have on medical solutions. That was very interesting. So the models are unbiased in regards to the actual medical research, but some of the doctors are biased. So that's an interesting thought but I trust my doctor. Do I trust my doctor more than my model? I do. Do I still look at the model even after the doctor has given me my diagnosis? I do. Do I still put my labs into the model to see what's really going on? Absolutely. And I think that idea of trust, like doctors are some of our most trusted allies in our lives, but we're using our model to try to kind of get to that next level. And that's going to be true, in the retail store also, where I'm like saying, hey, I want to have a good, healthy basket of products here for my family. What are the right things that I want? What should I take out of my basket? What should I add into it? And, and the model is going to help me make those decisions. And it's also going to help the retailer. It's going to say to the retailer, hey, you're going to do better if you add these products in, or you stock more of this ahead of time. You're not maximizing your revenue on this product line. So this is going to be an incredible moment, I think, where we'll be able to offer value and we'll be able to offer trusted value.
So you do believe in a very equitable and trusted ecosystem between technology and humans?
Absolutely.
Now, as you think of all those what we call digital teammates or our trusted agents that become more embedded in the day-to-day operations, do you actually see companies like us or in other industries eventually hiring a chief agent officer instead of a chief AI officer, or having some version of a leadership role to be able to manage that layer of the workforce?
Well, I'll give you my own example, which is that, at the beginning of every year, I write something called a V2 MOM, which is my vision, values, methods, obstacles, and measures. It's my business plan for the year. I've done that for 26 years, and I ask all my employees to align to that and write their own V2 MOM. And for the last 3 years, what I've done is I have another executive always with me because I like to bounce things off for creativity reasons and challenge. And then I also have a screen in front of me, a big one, and I have an AI and a model. And so I will write something down and I'll prioritize it. I'll add all of these things. And then I'll say, now, what do you think of this? To my friend who's next to me. And then I'll say, what do you think of this? To the model. And because the model knows a lot about my competitors, more than I do, the model has said in each of the last 3 years things where I've had to adjust my business plan. So it will say, Mark, this is so wonderful. You're such a great CEO. And this is such a good V2 mom, and you're doing such a good job. This is how it talks, But listen, you really aren't thinking enough about your ecosystem and how important it is to you. And I'll go, yeah, right. And it'll say, you're just not writing it down with the level of strength that it has, what they are putting into Agentforce, for example. And I'm like, you're right. And I'm like, well, maybe we can rewrite it, with that same level of balance. And then it will rewrite it. And then I will edit it and then go back and forth. And I'll say grade it. So I'll say, grade this against my competitor. Give me a letter grade. And then it'll say, okay, well, this is an B+. And then I'm like, well, what will it take to make it an A? Well, you have to do these things. And it challenges me to think. In each of the last 3 years, I've had a different executive with me, and I'm training them on how to use a model. In the same example, I was with a friend of mine who just left the FDA. He decided to retire. He's been there for 3 decades. And an incredible person. You would love this person. And incredible person, knows so much about all these areas, and he did not understand how to use the model. And so I'm saying to him, because he's trying to figure out what the next level of his career is. So I'm like, well, tell me about this, and what are you really an expert in, and what is this and this? And as we're working on all these different things, he was shocked that the model knew about all the studies that he had been involved in and all of these things. But then I did a seminal moment. I said, what would be the unique company that I could start based on my understanding of this area and the value that I've provided? And it wrote a business plan and came up with a slide deck for him. And he's kind of was like, oh, that's actually an interesting idea. And I think being able to work with a model is important. And it does take time to learn how to work with the model. And I think even with my family members, I spend time to try to explain this to them as well, because I think these models can offer us a lot of value professionally and personally, but working with them can be challenging, and getting the best out of the value out of the model is hard. You have to remember, these models are simulating intelligence. They're not really intelligent per se, the way we think of intelligence, but it's pretty close.
So, Mark, you gave several examples from leaders who are now rethinking their future. You mentioned your family. You mentioned, a broader ecosystem of partners that you have. Do you believe that there is an actual generational divide that agents will further amplify, or they will close that gap?
Yeah, I think it'll close the gap. And a reason I believe that is, I'll give you another example. So we have a customer of ours called Smartsheet. You probably know it from the industry. It's like a cloud spreadsheet. Very good product. And they have deployed Agentforce into the app, which was cool. And so if you're a user of the app, you can change your password, you can get help, you can adjust your user count, you can do all these things that before you had to talk to somebody about. And that was very cool to me. And that idea kind of expressed to me that these agents are going to appear inside of our apps. It's going to appear on our phone, and it's going to be an easier way to interoperate with the computer, and it's going to make things just simpler. And I think that idea that the agent can be more pervasive and persistent. But here I am. I'm in my office, and so if I say, hey, what are Salesforce's forecasts for this quarter? Nothing happened. So it's not really listening yet to me all the time. But at some point, Athina, while we're doing our podcast here, there's no question that another entity is going to appear on the screen and ask me a question. It's like, Athina asked you a very good question, but you didn't fully answer it. And have you thought about this, and that, and how it would relate to Pepsi? And then, boom, I'll be like, whoa, that's like very real. And we're not that far away from that moment. The case I'm making, like in the example of the V2 mom or in my healthcare example, it's a relationship, it's a partnership. And so I said to OpenAI has this new feature, which is one of the AIs I use. Like a lot of people probably know ChatGPT. Hey, what do you know about me based on my chats? And it knew a lot. And it kind of gave me a personality analysis. And then I'm like, okay, that's kind of freaky. And I was kind of like, do I delete all chats now button? Where's that? But I'm like, we're kind of in that squishy zone yet where it's not totally real, but we're getting a little closer. And the AI is a valuable partner for me and for you and personally, professionally. And I think that's very, very exciting.
No, I agree. And definitely we believe in the human agent partnership for the future of the enterprise, as you just suggested. Mark, I'm going to pivot a bit because I want to ensure we talk a bit about embedding philanthropy into business models. I know this is something that you have been super passionate about. So talk to us a bit about what inspired you to, rethink this space holistically and what you see as part of your responsibility as a CEO for such a major company.
That business can be the greatest platform for change, that the business of business is not just business, but it's about impacting the state of the world and improving it. And there's highs and lows in this narrative, and there's goods and bad parts. And I guess maybe one of the better decisions I made was when I first started Salesforce, I put 1% of our equity, profit, and time into a 501c3 charity called Salesforce Foundation. So we've been able to do about 10 million hours of volunteerism. We run 50,000 nonprofits for NGOs all over the world for free. We have given away about $1 billion in grants. And we also have signed up 20,000 other companies to follow this model in the tech industry. And I think that idea that you're building this big company, like, we're a big company, not as big as you, but we have 75,000 people. Our revenues are not as big as yours, but we'll do about 41 billion this year. Our market cap is not as big as yours. It's about $250 billion. And I think that for Salesforce, okay, we have an obligation to give back. But what's cool is we have at scale at every level of our growth, and that it scales with the company, and that I feel good. I have no regrets on the contributions of Salesforce to society because I have so many stories in my pockets, including my local San Francisco and Oakland public schools, where we've given over $150 million of grants to our local public schools because I feel so strongly about public education. We're the largest corporate philanthropist in our town in San Francisco. I'm the largest personal philanthropist. Our family's given away over $1 billion, mostly into healthcare, into hospitals. We've endowed now about 5 hospitals. I think that those kinds of things in the environment, oceans, trees are very important to me. And looking backward, I don't want any regrets going forward either. So, this is a fun part of life is giving. And I want to be able to kind of give back and know that I'm giving back at scale. And not in a small way, but I want to impact, with the amount that I've been given so much. I want to just give it back at the same level.
And you talk about your legacy, your work, and the impact that you are bringing. What are the things that you feel you still have to actively work on and getting right for yourself? And obviously, as you inspire other leaders, what they also need to do more of, especially in the days that we are living in, where there is a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity and complexity in the world.
Well, I just did like a family trip, as I'm sure you do, and I really want to make sure my family sees lots of different parts of the world because there's a lot of different types of things going on in the world. And one of the countries, we dropped into was Bhutan. And this is the land of the thunder dragons. I was there 17 years ago. I was there again. This time I realized, it was a different Bhutan for me. It was a different Bhutan because I saw a level of pollution and some things that I did not like. There were some things that I liked, like the spirituality of the country, the magic. It's the last vestige of Tibetan Buddhism in the world. It's very mystical. There's some incredible places. Our family had built a monastery that's only for women, that's basically accepts orphans, accepts women from abused backgrounds, and then trains them in these skills and then graduates them back into society. It was very fulfilling to see how it had evolved over 17 years. And then there was also a big question mark that I had spoken about with the prime minister because I was walking through a lot of their forests. It's a country that's heavily forested. But because of everything that I've been through in Hawaii and also in California,
of course,
I'm more wildfire sensitive, I think, than even they are. And I could see, and I was talking with my family members, see how dry this is here? And this feels like this climate is changing, and that, are they really ready? Because I think in some parts of the world, we haven't mitigated. We're not ready for some of the changes that have happened. And are they addressing fire prevention? Do they have fire trucks? Do they have training for the people? Because, some things they should just be ready for. And so that kind of idea that we should be using all of our resources to improve the world wherever we are, to bring our family along, to bring our companies along, our professional lives. I also reached out to my head of Salesforce India after that saying, hey, I think we have to think about this a little bit and what we should be doing here and adopting a particular part of the world. Maybe we could add some value because I was noticing that they needed some connections and some connectivity maybe that we can provide, some ideas based on our experiences. And I think that for all of us, we can provide so much. And I think about an executive like yourself and so many executives at Pepsi as well. I bet that you could tell the same stories that I'm telling right now.
Oh, totally. Bringing together, I would say, all the major companies to help forward those causes, I think is obviously kind of the world we want to live in moving forward. And again, you mentioned wildfires. I come from a country like Greece, this is very frequent, as well similar to California, right? So I attest to what you just said. We'll pivot a bit now. We're going to go to our lightning round.
Oh, great.
What's one piece of advice from a mentor or perhaps someone else that you truly trust that sticks with you today?
Well, since I was just talking about Bhutan and I also touched down and spent time in Calcutta briefly, when I would say in 1996, I took an odyssey around the world. I had been at Oracle for 10 years trying to figure out what was next in my life. And I went to Trivandrum, India, to Kerala. I think it's an area that's very important to a lot of us now. And I dropped down and I saw a friend of mine who's a guru, incredible woman named Amachi. And when I was there, I was telling her about my ideas for Salesforce and that I wanted to start a company and what I wanted to do and why I was excited and motivated. And then she goes, well, Mark, just remember this. In your quest to kind of create cloud computing and change business models and, you think about, what you're going to do for other people at the same time. It kind of gets back to your original question, Athina, about philanthropy. That idea that we have to be thinking this way. This is, this reciprocal relationship we have with the world. This is very important that we're co-creating. And I think that opened my mind to think about that 1-1-1 model.
Awesome. Okay, next one. What does the concept of Ohana means to you? And how has the Hawaiian culture shaped your leadership style?
Well, I think, the word Ohana, there's a lot of very powerful words in the Hawaiian language. Ohana is one of the most powerful words because it means family. But the thing about the word family in Hawaii is it can be extended. And one cool story I'll tell about my family, and my wife has kind of a good medical background, and all of a sudden she was speaking to somebody here about an issue she was having with one of her children, and it was clear to my wife that something was not exactly right and had not been diagnosed correctly at our local hospital because we only have so much capability and because we're in a small rural area. And she said, hey, I think you should get on an airplane and you should go to UCSF in San Francisco. We have a relationship there. We have the UCSF Benioff Children's Hospital. And I think you should go check in and you should do it quickly. And the woman who's a friend of hers took it seriously, got on a plane the next day with her child, arrived there, and they looked at the child and they immediately went into surgery, and it was a heart issue. And the child just had a failure to thrive because it just didn't have the functionality of the heart. And in San Francisco, these stories don't happen because we have major medical centers and it's just very clear exactly what needs to happen. And then when the family came back and the child is healthy, and I just actually was with the child now, is like 10 years old at a birthday party. And the mother said to me, your wife is part of our, Hanai family, is extended Ohana. Oh. This idea that Ohana is a very fluid concept in Hawaii, that it can mean not only the family you're born into, but it can be people who have other important relationships with you like that. And I think that idea of your friends, your family, even your employees, your executives, your alumni of your family, of your company even, in my mind, this is what Ohana means. That in my mind, Ohana is a bigger idea. It's an idea of a larger family, that your Ohana means all the people that you're deeply connected to on a spiritual level, and that spiritual connectivity and the spiritual connection that we have between all of us is paramount. And this idea actually is a Hawaiian idea, the idea of aloha, the aloha spirit, that idea that there's a spirituality that you can tap into. Certainly anybody who's visited Hawaii knows that. I want to make sure that, I respect deeply, this Hawaiian culture and language, and I'm not an expert in it by any way, so nobody should ever look to me as somebody who's an authority in that area. But it does feel to me that it's an area that we could all learn a little bit more from.
No, but I have to say, in every podcast, in every interview, in every interaction I have had with you, you speak very dearly about Hawaii and its culture. It's very telling of the fondness and the love you have for the culture of that island. Now, is there a piece of older technology that you are very nostalgic about?
Yes, I think there's many.
Okay. Well, give me one.
Well, I would say that, in some way our phones are that way right now. Oh. When we look down at our phone, we see a bunch of apps on the phone, and then we kind of see this kind of AI that's trying to do things on the phone, but not really very successfully. And I think our phones are probably going to change a lot in the next decade. I think that we might not be looking down at a phone that has apps. It might be a phone that just has a little more fluidity. It might have apps, but we're not looking at the apps, and they might be put together more dynamically. I think we're just in a moment in technology where technology could actually radically change over the next 1 or 2 decades. And when we think about apps, when we think about agents, we think about models, we think about semantic layers, action layers, and data layers, and architectures, and all these things that we talk about today, we may not be talking exactly about all of those things 1 or 2 decades from now. That we're at an interesting moment, and things are changing, and not yet fully, because, it doesn't all exactly work. But there are some things, and like my centipede story, that blue centipede, it worked. Like, I got the answer. If it was 4 or 5 years ago, what would I have done? I might have had to go to Google and search and then try to go through a bunch of articles and figure out what the right answer is. Probably still would call my doctor. With the model, it was a little bit clearer and more specific. So, yeah, I think we're at a critical moment in technology. It's an intersection of the past and the future right now, and I think we're excited to be a part of that. And I think what we're going to see is something very exciting for all of us. And there's going to be a lot of great things. There's going to be a lot of scary stuff too. Oh. And we're going to have to get our head around that as well. But I think all of those things are showing us as an incredible time to be alive. It's going to be totally amazing what's going to happen.
Awesome. So an obsolete mobile phone. I cannot wait, honestly speaking. Too many apps on my phone as we speak. Okay, one tech trend you think is overhyped. I'm sure you have one. Give me one.
One tech trend that I think is overhyped?
Yes.
I think the model in many ways is overhyped. I think that this idea that even though the model is totally exciting and totally amazing, the model is really in service to all of the models that have come before it. Oh. And that these models are all linked together from the beginning, like to what the models that are coming, and that a lot of these models are commodity models. I think in some cases they've gotten vaulted too high, and that, a lot of them basically are doing kind of the same stuff. Now, as you know very well, I own Time Magazine. I appreciate the partnership between Pepsi and Time, 2 great brands. But one of the things is when one of these model companies came along, OpenAI, and they wrote their first model and trained it, they took all of Time's material and put it into their data set to train their model. And they eventually, apologized and wrote us a check and licensed the data and all of that. But I just noticed that, oh, wait, all of these companies are doing that. And like it's the same algorithm mostly. Oh, that they came mostly out of open source. And then these data sets are mostly commodity data sets that are, somewhat proprietary from taken right off the internet. They're all moving forward mostly in lockstep within 6 months of each other. So I think that we have to be careful how high we vault all these models and just realize this is part of a continuum of AI and how it's been built over many years.
I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, last one for you, Marc. If you could have a drink with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Well, I just finished this great book on Woodrow Wilson. I would say that was really a story I had not read before. This incredible president, monumental. A lot of the ideas in the book today I would not agree with, especially in some of the areas around gender equality, I think that he was fighting. I was just saying to myself, wow, I'd really like to meet this person and discuss this and really try to understand, because some of the things that he did in his presidency were incredible, but I'm yet at odds with some parts of it. So I'll take that only because I just finished that book.
Awesome. Marc, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. I thoroughly enjoyed all the topics we discussed, everything from how the future will change very quickly, how the present will be disrupted by everything that you are building. And of course, that also closes actually our first season, this special bonus episode. So I hope to see you soon, very soon. And cheers.
Athina, on behalf of Salesforce and Time, I'm so grateful to you and all of the leaders at Pepsi today and also the ones of the past as well for everything that you've done for us. We are so deeply, deeply grateful to you.
No, you have been a wonderful partner. And thank you so much, and cheers again.
And cheers. Made in Hawaii.
Of course. Cheers. Thank you for joining us on Future Back Drinking. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. Be sure to like, subscribe, and stay connected on all your favorite podcast platforms. Thanks again for listening, and we hope to see you next time.